Well, hi everybody, Father Alex here. Welcome to another episode of the Godcast. If you've not come across me before, I'm the vicar of St Matthew's Church in Burnley. I'm also the author of Our Daily Bread from Argos to the Altar, a Priest Story. I'm a member of the Church of England General Synod and the host of the Godcast. My guest this week on the Godcast is Dave Hause. Dave is a musician, singer-songwriter based in the States, and we're going to be talking about his career and his upcoming tour. And if you like the podcast, do check out my YouTube channel. Perhaps subscribe. There are hundreds of interviews, lots of musicians, lots of writers, comedians, politicians, theologians, something for everybody. But for now, please enjoy this interview with Dave Hawes. Well, I'm delighted to say that joining me on the Godcast this week is Dave Hawes, who is an American singer-songwriter musician. Dave, it's absolutely brilliant to get you on. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, Alex, for having me.
You're about to. Well, I think you've just hit the road already, haven't you? You're going this huge tour.
I did a couple shows with the Gaslight Anthem last week, supporting them here in California. I don't actually leave until the 28th of August, and then it is a lot of shows. Yeah.
You excited? Are you fearful? What's the kind of mental
Um,
kind of
it's
condition for a tour
it's
like
all of
this?
that. I've been home all summer. I had a really busy spring. We have a festival that we put on each year called Sing Us Home in Philadelphia. And our headliners this year were the Bouncing Souls and Frank Turner. And so me and my band toured in with the Bouncing Souls to our festival, put on the festival, and then I solo toured out with Frank Turner. So I was super busy. So I took the whole summer off to be with my sons, and we just had this magical California summer. They learned to skateboard and got really passionate about that. And I've been kind of basking in just being home with my twins. So they went back to school yesterday. They started first grade, and I'm going back on the road in another week or so. And so I have a little bit of like the going back to school, not fear, but just anxiety and kind of like, oh, it's autumn and I'm changing gears. It's that same feeling I used to get when I was in school and that they, I'm sure, have. But I'm really excited about playing and sharing the new songs. And I haven't seen my brother in a while, so I'm excited to be with him. And yeah, I'm looking really forward to it. But I am torn as per usual with having to leave the family.
Yeah, sounds like you've had a great summer. What is the kind of preparation for a tour? Dave, my favorite band, as people who watch the Godcast will know, is Depeche Mode, who go on these
Mhm.
extraordinary long tours, but I follow them from the first night to the last, and it fascinates me how they keep the energy level up for kind of a year, 15 months, putting out the same great gigs night after night. Is there a kind of a regime that you go through?
There's starting to be, especially because we're kicking up a little bit more band stuff. When I'm delivering a solo or a duo or even trio, when it's like me and my brother or me and my brother and our keyboard player, that's usually an acoustic show. And so I just have to make sure my voice is in shape and and I have some understanding of how to deliver that kind of show. That's my preparation for that. When we're out with the band, I want it to be a high energy rock and roll thing, at which point you do need to train more. Or at least I've found that to be true as I've gotten older. Which typically I'm training a bit more looking into the festival, running into that. So that's usually springtime. But we have a couple shows with the band to kick things off in Philadelphia. And so I go to this gym that my friend um, is a trainer at. She lets me have it for an hour a day or so. And I usually run and sing because then I'm getting my body in shape while I'm doing the thing that I have to do to deliver the show. So that typically helps me get ready. And then play a lot more guitar than I'm used to playing. I mean, these days I play guitar less than I'd like, just given when I'm home, I'm so immersed in my kids' world. Um, but I have to get my guitar playing back up to snuff and stuff. So yeah, th those are the two main ways that I get prepared.
You were talking about your own kids. What about you as a kid, Dave? What was your introduction into music? I think I'm a little bit older than you, looking at these images. I was raised on a bed of my dad was a huge Ella Fitzgerald fan, Barbra
Mm.
Streisand, Tom Jones. What was going on in your house?
So my parents were born in the mid 50s. They were working class people who were um, that era of Jesus freaks. So it would be post Woodstock. There was like a real fervent evangelical movement after the hippies, and they got swept up in that. And so that sort of gave way then in the 80s to Christian contemporary music and an evangelical bent, with the giant Billy Graham crusades and
Mm.
Amy Grant and all that kind of stuff. So I was very involved in that, but my first brush with like they also loved rock and roll. So there was this like dual um influence going on. They loved Billy Joel. We had Thriller in the house for sure, Michael Jackson. We had they were into Chicago, the band. They were, they were people who graduated high school in the 70s, and then my dad got a job and worked his way through, but they didn't go to college. And then they raised the five of us. So my musical fascination sort of kicked up, I guess, around five or six. I was really into records. I was really into getting the vinyl, putting it on the turntable, and like listening intently.
Mm.
And then there was this band from Philadelphia, this pop rock band called the Hooters, who had a ton of success in like 1985 that I felt like I discovered. So they were like my first band, but I was already into Dire Straits and Bruce Springsteen and Tom Petty and all that kind of stuff just through osmosis of being in the house. And then also we went to private Christian school, so I was really immersed um in that culture at the same time. And so my sort of growth into more and more rock and roll was kind of more born of rebellion. So I got into much harder rock and heavy metal and punk and stuff as I started to get older.
I was going to ask Dave, were you a compliant evangelical, or were you kind of when did the rebellion age kick in? Was it kind of in your teenage dance years, or was it before that? Or
It was probably a little bit before that. Um, it's hard to say. I'm still kind of working this stuff out, and I wish it was already worked out, frankly. Um, but I think I struggled with what I was being taught, the way I was being raised, um, from an early age, and it sort of just kept giving way. But we were in full throttle um, rebellion probably by 12 or 13 years old. And so that would have been like 1990, 1991, also when like grunge was hitting. Even before that, though, I remember being fascinated with like hair metal and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, the seeds were sown pretty early, and um, of me not being totally comfortable with that situation, and and going to rock and roll and pop culture and stuff like that as a means of reprieve.
Mm. I find it interesting. I've not been a priest all my life. I didn't go to church. I'm in my
Hmm.
50s now. I didn't go to church till I was 40, and I attribute a lot of my kind of wearing one of these is because of music and I don't want to keep mentioning Depeche Mode, but bands that were producing religious ambiguity lyrics and rock music, so does that happen to
Are
you?
you a Catholic priest or
I'm a Protestant Church of England
Church
minister.
of England? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
gotcha.
yeah, so it's been an interesting journey, and I often still go to rock music or whatever music that attracts me for input and theology. What about you? Somebody who kind of had that education and then kind of tipped it on its head a little bit. Do you find you return to it with interest, or have you How does it influence you as a musician, for example?
Not so much as a musician, but as a songwriter. It's dye in the pool. You can never get it out. Um, I think for me, my frame of sort of being told you're totally depraved as a kid
Mm.
and needing of God's grace and inherently a sinner. You're like a little sinner as a kid. Um, has an enormous impact on a sensitive kid. Um, and it had an enormous impact on me. I think I still am like a moth to the flame on spiritual matters. I'm always intrigued. I'm always guarded um, when it comes to any fervent belief system, any sort of, especially the radicalized
Mhm.
nature of it. But I do love talking about it on some level, as long as we're like totally open about it. In other words, like I feel comfortable talking to you, knowing you're a priest. Like I don't have that. I'm not afraid of it, and I am interested in it. Um, but I do have like a good amount of, I guess, trauma or something around it. I mean, I hesitate to say that word, but that's I'm using that word because that seems to be in the updated kind of nomenclature about spiritual matters. I do have battle scars, I think, around it, and struggle with issues of faith, But I think like watching kind of Bruce Springsteen navigate it over his years and how he talks about it, I see a lot of commonality there where he talk or Depeche Mode is a great example of that imagery was clearly in their youth and in their upbringing. It's just part of the world we live in, and so you're always sort of wrestling against it. I think U2 has always done a great job of that, and um, yeah, it's part of the air we breathe.
You've got somebody evoking somebody in mind. So I don't know what question to ask next. When you were just talking, it makes me think about indoctrination. I'm really kind of against indoctrination. I'm more for education. And
Hmm.
I've got a lot of admiration for people that remain in a church where the history has been one of indoctrination. And that what you describe. That you're castigated or ridiculed because you might challenge or you might not be the perfect Christian inverted commas. But then I also think about musicians who produce some incredible stuff from a spiritual point of view. Chris Difford, who I mentioned offline, is a guest. If
Yeah,
I was to check it out, he had huge problems with addiction, and he said something I'll never forget. I was talking about his recovery, and he said, "I had to find out where my knees were, and it was only when I could find where my knees were that I could find my way back." And I found that really profound, actually. That.
I do too. Yeah, he's wonderful. They're wonderful. Squeeze and he's they're incredible. I mean, I've struggled with addiction too. I've been sober for I just got 10 years in the summer. The weird thing, I think that one of the more evolved, I hope, perspectives I have on coming from the Christian faith is I go back to that Groucho Marx quote where I would never want to be in a club that would have me as a member. Um, and I think that that's been true for so much of my life. Anytime I've found something, whether it be in a band or in an organized religion or a subsect of, punk rock or something, I always get in there and get frustrated by how human beings treat each other and how what starts as open closes. And however, as I get older now, I'm almost 50. I'm a couple years away. I'm 47. I've started to just kind of think about it in the same way as I'm an American. I didn't really have a say in that. And there's great privilege that comes with being an American. And there's great angst if you really understand America and you understand its history and how much blood's on our hands and also how much great has come from, American culture and American ideals and so forth. And you can see that very starkly with an administration like the one we have. You go like, well, I am American, and this does not define me. This particular regime of people trying to, undermine it. And I think if I'm fair, I can say the same thing for Christianity. Like I didn't have a say in it. I got indoctrinated. I,
Mm,
I was pushed into it. Um, and they are my people to a degree. I really do understand where they're coming from. I understand, um, even like from my parents' perspective, they had three girls in the 1980s. They didn't know what to do, and they thought, well, here's a way to instill morality into them. My mom was coming from abject poverty and working her way out of the projects in Philadelphia, so she was looking for something better than the way she came up. And so I totally understand where she was coming from to sort of put all of her faith in that. Um, but I think that's even true for sobriety. Like I'm not skipping down to meetings and feeling like, well, the sober people are my people. I feel more at home with the drunks. Those are my people. And however, I'm other. I'm not a drunk anymore. I don't drink, and I wish I was in some ways. So I think like understanding that those things all swirl around, and that at the end of the day, you have to do your best and take the things that are worth taking from a set of beliefs or ideas and then leave the things that aren't serving you is kind of the way that I've tried to approach it. I understand that theologically that doesn't pencil,
mm.
but I'm okay with that as I'm not a theologian and not necessarily looking for the approval of anyone in a given faith subsect. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
okay with it at this point because I'm not so sure anybody knows any better than I do.
Yeah, I think we're going quite deep here with this next question. If you don't mind me asking, in finding your own kind of sobriety from addiction,
Mhm.
was there any spiritual reconciliation that needed to be found? Is spiritual well-being part of your recovery, I suppose is the question.
It probably should be. I cold turkeyed it, and I didn't go to therapy for a couple of years, which I regret. I should have gone right in and tried to figure out um, if I'm removing a crutch, a useful crutch to some degree in drinking and using drugs and stuff. If I'm removing the crutch, like what was the reason I needed the crutch in the first place? That would have been really valuable information to find out faster. Um, I also think some kind of spiritual reconciliation would have been valuable as well. But mostly I got addicted to a streak initially of like, okay, well, now I'm at 100 days. Now I'm at 200 days. Now I'm at a year. And I got really more into songwriting and bared down on productivity in terms of working with music. And then later I got married again and had my kids. And so all those would have been more useful. I still think there might be a spiritual reckoning. I mean, I find music to be such a spiritual thing to spend your time doing. Um, but I don't have a reconciliation with the way I was raised so much as like I'd rather forgive
Mm.
than hold a grudge against all of those people that I for years did hold a grudge against. It doesn't serve me
No.
as a fully formed person who's trying to do better and who's trying to be a good father to like sort of burn with anger about things that happened to me as a
Yeah.
kid. I gotta let go of that. And I think in a weird way, again, you take forgiveness from the idea of forgiveness from the Christian faith that I was raised in and go, well, this is a really valuable thing to lean into, forgiveness. So I'll use their tool to forgive them, and hopefully my life gets better. And Are they forgiving? I don't know. It's not in my control. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's a strange dichotomy, but I guess that's what I'm ultimately saying is like the older I get, the more everything feels like this strange dichotomy or strange ambivalent kind of I'm not exactly sure, but I'm just doing my best here.
yeah. And what about addiction and artistry, Dave? Where I'm going here with this one is, I do. Do you think addiction brought the best out of you as an artist, not as necessarily as a person, but as an artist? So, again, for example,
No.
just so like I think Depeche Mode's greatest album was when their all their lives were in complete turmoil, which is an album called Songs of Faith and Devotion.
Yeah,
And
it's a great record.
I just thought that it was a profound album, and I was just wondering if you sometimes think that if you've been in a dark place, it's made you more creative.
No, but I do think I think it's got more to do with the fact that music is evoking emotions. And I think that if you're in a vulnerable place and willing to go to that vulnerable place in your creative life, that you're able to reach people a little bit easier. But that doesn't necessarily mean that your life should be in turmoil or you should be addicted in order to get to that place. Your job as a creative or as a person who's connecting with people is to get to that vulnerable place while maintaining a life that keeps you here. And so I think that's the job is the vulnerability. It's not, I think that you can get to vulnerability a little bit easier with booze and drugs, but you also run the risk of burning that vulnerability down and turning into a husk of yourself because
Mm,
you spend all your time using. So I think it's a fine line. And I also think y- if you look at Tom Waits or you look at Leonard Cohen,
mm,
these are not, or Paul Simon, these are not people who um, kept having divorces and stayed in addiction and in order to fuel great creativity.
mm,
And sort of on the opposite side, Billy Joel's had four marriages and DUIs and all kinds of stuff, and he hasn't
mm,
made a record in 30 years. So I just don't think that it's an exact correlation, and I don't think it works that way. I think like I would more say if I would challenge someone who had that idea with like, well, how does Barbara Kingsolver write her novels? It's certainly not waking up with a hangover.
mm.
And I mean, I think this is my job. It's thankfully it's my job, which it's incredible. And so I should show up to work, and you can't show up to work with a hangover and do your best. And I think that, that's part of it. But yeah, I think that that sort of myth is easy to mistake
Mm.
because I think it's got to do with other factors.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting your perspective. Thanks. What about songs that have influenced you, Dave? In the UK on the BBC, there's a radio program called Desert Island Discs. I don't know if you've ever and somebody famous or from politics what comes on and has
Mhm.
to pick 8 or 9 records to take to a desert island with them. I can't ever see me being invited on there, but I do imagine them in my own head. What one song
Mhm.
I really is a song called Nothing Rhyme by Gilbert O'Sullivan. I don't know if you know that song. It's an old song.
Yeah. I love Gilbert and Sullivan. Yeah, I was in the Pirates of Penzance in my high school. I was just a random pirate in the chorus. But Tim, my younger brother, when he came through school, he's 15 years younger. He came through and they did the Pirates of Penzance again, and he was the Pirate King, which is so cool. But yeah, I love Gilbert and Sullivan. They're so great. But I don't know that song. I'm sure I know
I
the
think
song,
I
but I
think we've
haven't
got a
heard
slight
it in a
confusion.
long time.
Dave, I think we've got a slight confusion. I'm talking about Gilbert O'Sullivan. He's an Irish artist
Oh,
who
oh
sang.
shit.
He
Oh, damn. I'm
sang.
sorry.
What did he say? He sang Alone Again. He sang Claire. But the song I really love is called Nothing Rhymed. Tom Jones did a cover version, and it blew me away. You'll have to YouTube it. But what about
All right,
you?
hold on. Give me that again, because oh, that's so embarrassing. Here I am talking about Gilbert
O'Sullivan.
O'Sullivan.
Yeah, nothing rhymed. It's a beautiful
Nothing.
song. It really is. You get what you do. You Google
Um,
it. It's Googling on the Goldcast, everyone.
um. Okay, so you're asking what mine would be?
Yeah, what if you name a couple, two or three songs that are trekking out to the desert island? What would be on there? Bit as random as you like.
Oh man, it's tough. I think Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day, that big hit they had in '04.
That's a great song.
It's just great. It's so sturdy. Um, I would put Long Ride Home by Patty Griffin. I would put
I'm
oh
writing that
man, I
down now
don't
as we speak because I don't know
oh, that'll break your heart, and you'll, oh my God, it's life-changing, that song.
that.
Um Trying to think. You know what? I actually have a list for this very reason. Um I had I got tired of trying to come to, I mean, Amazing Grace, Free
Oh,
Fallin',
mm,
Wildflower, Just Like Heaven,
yeah.
Sorrow, the Bad Religion song, um, Policy of Truth. There's one for you.
Mm. What about
That's
what
a favorite
about
of all time.
what about from your own catalog, Dave? What you could take a couple with you.
Oh, um, I probably wouldn't bring those to the desert island because I'd be
Keep
still
singing.
trying to delve into Tom Petty's catalog, or I think Gone by the Bouncing Souls. Um, um,
People are going to go and check these out now.
yeah, Love Song by The Cure.
Great song.
Um, So Lonely by The Police.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I'm so glad I'll never be on a desert island with a record player.
Yeah. I went to see you'll know this band. I went to Echo and the Bunnymen last week.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're great.
and the Killing Moon live is an absolute what a tune that was live. It was
That's a great song. Yeah, we did a tour with Frank Iero, who plays in Chemical Romance, and he would do that in his set, and I would play it with him. And so I learned that on my 12 string, and we would play it every night. That's a great song, and
yeah.
it was a treat to get to play it with
Well,
them.
listen,
But
we're just talking songs here, aren't we? We've got a few minutes left, Dave. Just you've got
sure.
this got new material out, and I
Mhm.
was looking on your website, and you were saying it sounds like you've enjoyed the experience of kind of being a bit more collaborative with the guys in the Mermaid. Is that
Mhm.
is that true? Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've been wanting to make a full band rock and roll record for a while, and just sort of needed the right set of circumstances. I wanted to get some other I just the muse was pushing me in the directions that you hear on Blood Harmony and Drive It Like It's Stolen, and then we re-recorded all these old Loved Ones songs that I had in sort of a roots way, and that I was just following my bliss, following the stuff that I thought was the most compelling at the time. But in the back of my head, I'm always, I'm a rock and roller, and wanted to make a loud record, and realized that we had knit together quite an amazing band filled with talented guys over the last couple years, and the circumstances just kind of presented themselves. I had just enough sort of rock and roll songs that I was fixing to record, and I was like, well, what if we did it and really leaned into the idea that this is a collaborative band, and let's go do this in Canada. And there were all these other factors that sort of swirled together, and just like that, we went from having nothing or very little to 20 songs recorded, or 21 songs. I forget what we landed on, but because I've been recording some stuff since. But yeah, it was wonderful. There's a documentary that we've been editing, it's almost finished, about the whole process, which is really exciting. And next year, what we'll do is we'll let the record come out, and Tim and I'll do some touring, as a duo. We'll bring our keyboard player Mark for Europe and stuff. And then next year we'll like go back into rock clubs with our band for the big to do and like bring those songs to life as a band. Which is really exciting. I love traveling with those guys. We have a great time, a lot of camaraderie. Um, and so it's very exciting to get this thing out and then see what we're going to do with all the material that we put in the vault. And there's a bunch of other ideas too. So at some point there'll be a follow up to it, hopefully pretty quickly, because we were so prolific in our
Mm.
output.
Great. And you just quickly, you said about Europe. What's your relationship with the British community, Dave? You got good experiences coming to the British Isles?
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy that that little place makes up for, a big chunk of our fan base. I mean, there's America, obviously, which is it's weighted that way, but there's so many people in America. But then Germany and England are like our two second homes after America. So it's been wonderful. We've had some incredible shows, especially in the north. Like we have a really great following in Leeds, a really great following up in Scotland. Edinburgh and Glasgow shows have been amazing. And it's really affirming because so much of the best rock music in history came from that island. So, to be in the place where everybody from Frightened Rabbit to Depeche Mode to The Clash to the Beatles to The Who, like all of our favorite acts, like to be in your land and be accepted and sort of have a better audience there than maybe even on the west coast of California, which is where I live, is kind of affirming. You're like, well, you guys get it because you guys made it up. There's something very special about that I definitely don't take for granted. So I'm excited to get back there and do some shows in October, but then to really go back
Mm.
next April is when we're shooting to do our headliners, like as Dave Hause and the Mermaid. So
Great. Well, I'll look out for that and try and get along and see. I've been listening. I really enjoy. Is it Look Alive? Isn't it the current track?
yeah.
That's a cool track. I really like that. It's fabulous. So yeah,
Thanks,
great.
Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will play that one for you whenever we're in your. Where are you? Are
I,
you in?
I'm in a place called Burnley.
Okay, where's
Yeah,
that
have you
near?
heard of it?
I
No.
haven't actually.
It's about 30 minutes from Manchester.
Ah,
So
okay.
I don't know if we've got any famous, but there was a band in the 90s called the Milltown Brothers who were from Burnley, and that's about as famous. That's where the fame stops, really. But yeah, but Manchester is such a great vibe down there. There's some great venues down there.
Yeah,
Uh,
we love to play Gorilla, and we've played
yeah,
we've played some of the bigger ones opening for bigger bands, and then some of the smaller ones. Yeah, I love Manchester and Leeds. Like we really, and even Newcastle. We just played
yeah,
there this past winter, and it was fantastic. It was really fun. So we love the North, and we're looking forward to getting back there, sharing these songs.
great. Well, Dave, I've really enjoyed chatting to you. I said to you at the beginning, I love chatting music. I could talk longer, but I think people like half an hour podcast, so we'll leave it at that. But I'll just say thanks. It's been really nice meeting you. Found you fascinating.
Yeah,
All the best with the new
thanks,
music.
Alex. Yeah, and when we put the next little batch out, we'll be back and we can continue our conversation.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thanks and all the best. Love from the UK.
Yeah, thanks, brother. See ya.